welcome to the third episode of the Introvert Biz Growth Podcast, the show where I talk to introverts who grow their business and make a difference. I'm Sarah Sinacroce and thrilled that you're spending this time with me today. Today I'm talking to Tara Gentile. I've recently attended one of Tara's online classes and learned a lot from it. And as Tara is a fellow introvert, I'm delighted that she has agreed to speak with us today and share her story over the next 20 minutes. Tara Gentile is the founder of Quiet Power Strategy, a company specializing in hands-on business training for idea-driven entrepreneurs. She's passionate about helping people with smart ideas make more money, reach new audiences, and live life with ease. Tara is the author of The Art of Earning, Quiet Power Strategy, and The Observation Engine. She's the host of Profit, Power, Pursuit, a podcast that goes behind the scenes on the real grit, administration, and logistics of running a successful business. Tara's work has been featured in Fast Company, Forbes Inc., and the Huffington Post. She's a regular instructor on Creative Live and speaks on entrepreneurship, money, and marketing all over the world. Hi Tara, how are you today?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, thank you for your time and doing this with me. I'm really excited. So Tara, besides your official bio, tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe something that my introverted audience can relate to.
Sure. Well, outside of what I do on a daily basis, helping people build more profitable business models, help them create more compelling messaging, help them build products that sell more easily, I'm a food lover, I'm a craft beer lover, and I'm terrible at parties. So I am sort of an unconventional entrepreneur, or at least not, what people think of typically as an entrepreneur and a business owner. I don't love networking events. In fact, I actively avoid them in my day-to-day life. And yeah, I'm pretty terrible at making small talk and kind of putting myself out there in those type of environments, whether for personal or for business. So what I do online on an everyday basis has really been an opportunity for me to express a different part of my personality. And from talking to so many introverted entrepreneurs over the last 7 years, I think that's kind of like a shared experience, is that this world of social media and blogging and podcasting, or whatever the medium is that you love, those things have really kind of helped to change my life and open up doors that would have never been open to me before.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people in the audience are like, hallelujah, no more networking events.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's ditch all the networking events. Yeah, totally. I can totally relate to that. Excellent. So, I think the fact that what you said is true, that this online world, sometimes people don't even realize that, I'm an introvert or you're an introvert, because we're totally outgoing online, but it's not the same thing to, do this in person. So I can totally relate to that. And even for our call, we're like, really, do we have to do video? Can we just do audio and sit here in our offices and just connect like that? Exactly. Excellent. Well, let's get right into it. And what I want to tell my audience is a little bit how these introverts that I'm talking to, how they created their business and how they're generating revenue. So maybe that's where we can start. How are you currently generating revenue? Because I know you do so many things. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I do so many things, and they kind of all boil down to a few core revenue streams. So I run a company called Quiet Power Strategy, and we create hands-on training and support programs for idea-driven entrepreneurs. And we have a number of different programs, but our flagship program is called Quiet Power Strategy, the Foundation, and that is sort of an end-to-end business strategy and coaching program. There's sort of a passive independent study version of it. There's also a small group version version of it. And there's also a mastermind version where you can work directly with me. And so that's sort of our main source of revenue. It accounts for over half of the revenue that we bring in on an annual basis. Then we do have a number of other programs that basically are focused more on a specific objective. So whereas with the foundation, we help people build foundations for whatever phase of business they're in. We do other, more concrete objectives in the other programs. So things like building a signature program, or things like, creating sales funnels and sales systems in your business, creating processes for building your influence as an entrepreneur. So those are some of the other programs that we offer, very similar to how we offer the foundation program, the main program as well. And then I have a membership site called The Lab, and that's a resource, a library, and entrepreneurial community, and people pay for that, pay for access to that on a monthly basis. So that's a nice source of recurring revenue, sort of baseline revenue. And it's also a great opportunity for me to engage, my customers, make sure they feel supported, help them get their questions answered. And it's a great opportunity for me to kind of put all of the, disparate things that I do, all of the crazy ideas that I have, all in one place. So instead of trying to be everything and do everything for everyone, I can do those things, but I put them all behind one paywall so that it's easier to sell and it's easier logistically for the way we run the company as well.
I guess that's why it's called The Lab, right?
Yeah,
I like that.
That's why
term.
it's called The Lab. Exactly. That, and we have a really high value for experimentation.
Yeah.
So it's both me experimenting with ideas and it's me empowering our members to experiment as well. So that's The Lab. And then the main other source of revenue that I have outside of those things is speaking. And I speak in all sorts of different ways. Sometimes it's webinars. Sometimes it's on Creative Live, which is an online video learning platform. I create courses and workshops for them. And then sometimes it's on stage at different conferences. And so that kind of takes over most of the last bit of my revenue generation. And I suppose actually the last thing, I can't believe I almost forgot this, is I have 4 books on the market. And so I earn revenue from that every month as well. It's just, I tend to think of my books more as marketing than as money makers. And there's a lot of different reasons for that. But I do definitely earn revenue from those things every month as well.
Yeah, and I think you still forgot one more, is the event. You just...
Oh, yes. Well, that's totally not revenue generating. There is nothing profitable about running conferences unless your business is running conferences. Running a conference is probably not going to be profitable for you. So the reason we're running a conference is not to make money. And you might look at the ticket price and be like, how could you possibly not be making money on that? And I could show you our budget and you would see.
Yeah, no, it's expensive to run these conferences. Mm-hmm.
Totally. But it's also really, really worth it. And so I tend to see that, there's things that people pay for in my business that so technically they're bringing in revenue, they're not profitable because I'm actually running them as marketing. And so the conference is largely about that. It's marketing kind of outwardly. It's also marketing internally. So for people that have already purchased from us, and it's a great sort of environment for me to do research and development in. So if I'm not constantly talking to my customers and finding out, what particular challenges they're running into, what roadblocks they're stumbling over right now, then I'm losing touch with my content marketing, with my email marketing, with social media. And so live events, whether I create them or whether other people create them and I attend or I speak, is a huge part of how I keep my business on the cutting edge of what's going on in the market right now.
Yeah, and I guess people attend and then they turn into customers, or at least they buy your book. And so that's why you see it as marketing. And, maybe later it will generate revenue, probably not the ticket price that they spent, but at least some revenue later on. Excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, it's a huge credibility booster too.
Yes.
So it's not just marketing for the, 120 people that attend. It's also marketing for the tens of thousands of people that see that we're putting on the event. And that, I mean, I think people often forget about, the kind of the credibility that comes alongside of actually making an offer like that for the people who aren't actually purchasing. But it's huge. Just as a, for instance, every time I have a launch, every time I release a new book, even outside of sales, my audience grows immensely because of what we're doing around those things and the credibility that those things bring. So yes, it's really good for revenue in the short term for something like a launch or releasing a book. But in the long term, it's this huge credibility booster that then I can capitalize on in the long term, which for me as an introverted entrepreneur is really, really helpful because I don't want to have to constantly be pitching. I want to have a business where people are anticipating my offers and are looking for them so that I don't have to be kind of constantly banging on people's doors and saying, hey, buy from me, buy from me, buy from me.
Yeah, excellent. I think Tara, you're truly a master of these different revenue streams, right? And I like how you always say, we, us, obviously you do have superpowers, but I'm sure there's a team behind you, right? And so to run all these different things. And I appreciate how you mentioned that it's you and the team, and there's no way one person can do this by themselves.
No, absolutely not. And when I say we, I don't mean a royal we. I mean an actual group of people. I think right now, between different types of contractors, there's about 10 to 12 people on our team at any given time. And, like we were talking about before we started recording, I just wrapped up a launch. And basically all I had to do on the launch was make sure that the content was created for the program and make sure that the marketing was moving forward. Everything else was taken care of by other people. I would go to bed, or I'd wake up in the morning, or I'd go have lunch and come back to my desk, and 5 different things had been done by other people. And it was just yes, you can't do what I do by yourself. Yeah. There are businesses that you can run absolutely as an individual, but I think you need to be realistic about just how much a team, whether that's people that you pay, or whether it's your community, or whether it's colleagues, or whether it's mentors, you need to be realistic about just how much a team can really benefit the growth of your business.
Yeah. I think it's key to create a team. Sometimes at the early stages, it's difficult for entrepreneurs to make that step because they just see it as a cost rather than an investment. But I guess that's a whole different story, and we'll talk about that one day.
Talk about that for at least a few hours.
Yes. Let's talk about, I mentioned before, these superpowers. I don't know if that's the best word for it, but what do you think as an introvert, what is your biggest strength? What helped you the most building the business that you have today?
Yeah, I think my greatest strength as an introvert is being a good listener and observer and being highly perceptive. And so once I realized early on in my business why I would have trouble making sales or why I would have trouble closing deals, I really started paying attention to what people were actually asking for and not what they were saying, but what they were actually asking for. And I think that introverts, by and large, are very, very skilled in this area. Because we have such deep inner lives of our own, we are, I think, better capable of understanding the deep inner lives of our customers as well. And so I used my abilities in my skills in that arena to kind of really figure out, if someone says, well, I'm just not making enough money, what are the other things that are going on under the surface there? What's the inner monologue that they're saying to themselves? What kind of feelings are coming up around that? What fears do they have, and how can I help alleviate them? And so that perception piece, that listening piece, has just been absolutely huge for my business. And because of that, it's actually a skill that I work on with all of my clients, whether they're introverted or extroverted, because I think we can all do it. But I do think that we as introverts kind of have this extra extra ability and this kind of very natural, this natural skill for this that can really help your business.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it's more than just listening, is like what you said, it's putting yourself in the other person's shoes and have this empathy. And empathy not meaning, here's my solution, buy this, buy that, but really trying to understand their pain and what they're struggling with. And I agree. I think it's definitely a strength of that introverts tend to have more often than extroverts.
Absolutely.
What about the weaknesses? It definitely also comes, there's always pros and cons. So what do you see as a weakness as being an introvert?
For me, it is my lack of being ready or wanting to even ask for help. We were talking about team a little bit ago, and I think that by and large, I have missed a lot of opportunities to not just build out the team that works for me, but to build out the team that I can rely on outside of my business, because I have a hard time asking for help. And not just I think that asking for help is sort of the surface level problem. I don't ask for help, and there are ways to address that. But I think that the core root issue of that really does come from being introverted is that I tend to think things through for a long time before I take action on them, right? Now, that said, I'm also a very quick actor. If my husband heard me say that, he would totally just laugh at me for saying that I'm a thinker and not a quick actor. However, when someone says, "Hey, what can I do for you?" or "That was so helpful. Is there a question I can answer for you? Is there something I can promote for you? Is there something you need help with?" I tend to go to a thinking place, and I'm not someone that just has, that ask on the tip of my tongue. And I think that largely comes from introversion. And I think it's something that you absolutely have to overcome as an entrepreneur. So especially in the last 6 months or so, I've identified how many opportunities I have missed because of that. And so I've really been trying to put systems in place for myself so that I, one, always have an answer to that question, and two, so that I'm putting myself in the position to be able to ask for help more often, because I think there's also some core issues that introverts face in that arena as well.
Excellent. Yeah, I was telling the audience in the intro that I attended your online class, and during that class you asked us to do exactly that, ask for help. And it was about sharing a blog post, and man, it was so hard.
I know.
And so I realized
everyone had trouble with it.
Yeah.
I don't think there was anyone, and I'm sure it was probably a majority introvert audience. And I think this is an issue that everyone has difficulty with. But I think that for introverts, we have some really core modes of operating that we need to not break out of, not change, but we need to become really aware of them so that we can adjust the rest of our behavior to still take advantage of those opportunities. And absolutely, asking for help has been something that I have required of clients from day one, working with business coaching clients. And it has been, by and large, the thing that they do not do and the thing that keeps them from the success that's available to them. And it's so frustrating to me. And it is so my problem, too.
That's probably why it's even more frustrating, because you're struggling with it. That's usually how it works, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So listen, people, you have to ask for help, okay?
Yes.
Excellent. Let's talk about some golden nuggets for the audience. Why don't you share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success? So
sure. Well,
go ahead.
Yeah, I can actually piggyback on what I just said, and this is a pretty recent personal habit for me, and I wouldn't even necessarily call it a habit yet, but it's something that I am taking action on a weekly basis, and so I'm trying to build the habit for it, and I'm getting there. But because I have such problems asking for help, and because I have such problems kind of just even keeping in touch with my network so that I'm in the position to ask people for help, or so that I feel comfortable. I'm always in the position to ask for help, but it's, do I feel comfortable with it? So I've been actively reaching out to at least 5 people in my network, or 5 influencers that I want to connect with, that maybe, I have a connection with through somebody else, every single week. And so I have this long list in my Evernote file of people that I either want to just say hey to, people that maybe I haven't talked to in years that I want to reach out to, and then people that maybe I don't know really well, or maybe I've met them once at a conference and I would like to kind of secure that relationship a little bit more. And so I have lots of different ways that I do it. Sometimes it's just a quick email. Sometimes it's just a quick Facebook or Twitter. Sometimes it's a text message or a phone call. But I'm really trying to make that a habit in my weekly, business operations, where I'm identifying 5 people I want to reach out to, and then actually making that happen.
Excellent. Yeah, and I think it's important that you do it and not someone on your team, right? Because here it's important that there's this personal connection.
Yes, absolutely. I have my team do a lot, but this is something that has to be me, because my team doesn't have a network. I have a network.
Yes.
Even though my business has really largely, it used to be very much a personal brand. People bought from me and they dealt with me. We've really transitioned in the last year or so into a brand where, people deal with a team and a company and a brand. But that doesn't mean that I'm still not the face of what I do. And that means that the network has to be mine, the outreach has to be mine, the story has to be mine, and then the ask has to be mine as well.
Yeah. Okay, great. The second golden nugget is an internet resource. So anything that, you couldn't live without, a tool, an app, something like that.
Yeah, well, I could list like thousands probably.
I'm sure.
But I think probably one that I think still not enough people know about is called Zapier. Mm. And Zapier it does kind of what it sounds like. It zaps information from one app to another. So say you use MailChimp and you also use, I use Sells, for instance, to sell ebooks. And so Sells, wait, maybe I'm giving a bad example. I think I'm giving a bad example. Let me just say it zaps information from one source to another. So applications don't always talk to each other, right? You've got information one place, you want to get the information to the next place. Or like here's a good example. You've got a webinar program and you've got all of these registrations in your webinar program. How do you easily get them onto a list in MailChimp, for instance? And how do you tag them with the right information so that you know where they came from? Well, Zapier can do that for you. And for years, we had to do this stuff manually, or for years, we had to deal with integrations that didn't work properly, especially if you were, using kind of budget solutions, as most of us either are or have in the past. And so Zapier has come along and basically made it so that you can pretty much do anything you want with the information that you have. And so our team swears by Zapier. We are constantly zapping information all over the place. We're spontaneously putting information into spreadsheets. We're building email lists. We're, tagging people with purchasing information in our email program. And Zapier does all of that for us.
Yeah, I love it too. I just set one up this morning where I use a type form for, I sent you a link to a type form to fill out the information for the podcast. And in Zapier, kind of organizes this information into a Google spreadsheet for me. So, and there's tons of examples like that. There used to be another one called If This Then That. Mm-hmm. It's a bit less complex, and I definitely switched over to Zapier as well. So, Great one. Good one. Thank you. Last but not least, a book. Which book would you recommend to the Introvert Biz Growth audience, and why?
Yeah, so I am a huge business book person. And so again, there are like hundreds of books that I would recommend. But probably one that I think is especially helpful for introverts is How the World Sees You by Sally Hogshead. And Sally Hogshead is the creator of the Fascination Advantage system, which is basically a personality profile for your brand, or a communication profile for your brand. And if you're a small business owner, if you're a micro business owner, even if you aren't your brand, your personal qualities inform your brand to such an extent that a profile like this can be absolutely game changing. It was for me. It really kind of put my business back on a rapid growth trajectory. And so I highly recommend this book, How the World Sees You. She has another one called Fascinate. But How the World Sees You is really focused on individuals and how they communicate, how they create value, and how they are most valuable to the people that they're working for or working with. And so when you know that, then you can communicate that information to your audience through your marketing, on your website, in your emails, so that people really see you for as valuable as you possibly can be. It helps you stand out in a crowded market, and it also just helps you become more comfortable with your brand and your marketing and your sales process, so that you can use your particular strengths instead of trying to use someone else's strengths. And I think for introverts, that is so, so, so important.
Yeah, I love that book as well. And I think it's so important to see the other side, because we're used to the Myers-Briggs and all these types of tests where we analyze how you see the world. And then it's good to see, well, what do people actually think of you? And I was really surprised. I see myself as an introvert, but that doesn't mean that everybody else sees me as an introvert. And I'm sure I'm positive it's the same for you, because you're going out there speaking and all of that, so it doesn't come over as Tara's the introvert, shy and reserved, not at all. So yeah, definitely a good book to read. Excellent. And let's not forget your book that I mentioned, or your books. I really like the Quiet Power Strategy book, so definitely read that as well. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time. I always like to end the podcast with a mindful ending. What are you grateful for this week, Tara?
Oh, this week I am grateful for a small break and for some easing up of the pace that I've been on for the last few months. The most of April is going to be on the road for me, and so I'm kind of really enjoying a break for this week and next week, where I can just kind of slow down, create some more space, and kind of enjoy being in business again.
Excellent. Well, you really deserve it, and enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, Tara. This was a great pleasure talking to you, and talk to you again soon.
Thanks so much.
You can find Tara on her website at quietpowerstrategy.com, or on Facebook, facebook.com/Tara Gentile Business Strategist. Next time I will chat to myself. Yes, I will ask my friend and fellow podcaster Keith Carlson if he would interview me for a change. Please come and download the 3 Golden Nuggets cheat sheet that Tara shared with us today at saracenoncroce.com. And if you don't have it yet, get your free 4-step guide on how to say no to grow. And if you like this episode, please subscribe to this show on iTunes or Stitcher and tell your introverted friends about it. Us introverts are in this together. I'll talk to you in 2 weeks. I know it seems long, but time flies, and pre-excitement is half the experience. Talk to you then.